Welcome. Great to have you with us on the show today. Before we get started, let's at least let the water drop on the forehead in slow drips for 49 good San Francisco seconds.
I've been impressed so far. They still have a lot of things to work on, even as a 2-0 team. But I've been very impressed. They got carved up in the first half yesterday, made the adjustments. That's right. Well, yeah, you're nervous over there knowing the Giants are coming Thursday, but that's all right. That's all right.
I have a student in my class who's a big 49ers fan.
Really?
Yes.
There aren't many. There are when they win. When they lose, I don't know. Not many.
They have a softball game on Thursday night.
Yeah.
He says it's more important than the Giants game because they'll win the Giants game easily, he said.
Any kind of short week in terms of preparation, I don't care who's playing who, it is tough.
Blah, blah, blah.
It is. There's a reason they hate Thursday night footballs. But yeah, I think it's home opener for a team that's played well on the road for 2 games. I like their chances, but there's no givens in the NFL.
Do you sit there and watch, or do you pace?
It all depends on who they're playing. It all depends on who they're playing.
So will you pace against the Giants?
Probably not, at least initially. No, when they were a big game, though, yeah, there's nerves kick in, even as a fan. Even though I can't help them whatsoever, they can't hear me if I'm yelling. Still.
Yeah, I know. I've seen the police reports.
I know. I guys can't believe it. They never cut me a break either. It's disturbance. I have no idea how it's a disturbance.
Well,
and then
you screaming out, "Don't you know who I am?" and them answering yes, that doesn't help you.
That's the scary thought. I can't believe they hear me. They're 3,000 miles the other way, and they still hear me.
You know who I am? We do here at the police department. And there we go. Okay. So, let's start with the game Saturday. We'll break this up into a couple of segments. The defense was terrific. Doesn't take a genius to say that. When you get 5 takeaways like that, 4 interceptions, each week now you've had a linebacker undercut a route. DeLuca took his back for a touchdown. Mm-hmm. Abdul Carter picked his off, and then it became a lot of fun watching him run with the ball because I just said to Dr. Wayne Sebastianelli at practice the other day, I says, I can't wait for Carter to pick one off and watch him run with it. Right? And you saw he was throwing people out of the way. It was great. They took the 5 turnovers and they converted it into 20 points. So they were opportunistic. They now have 7 takeaways on the season, 34 points off of takeaways. It was also the 11th consecutive game that Penn State has had 6 tackles for loss or better. That is the longest streak in the country. It's a streak a lot of people don't know about. I think they know about the 30-point streak, but not about the 6.5 tackle for loss streak. That's 11 straight games with that. They had 7 on Saturday. And that's 11 straight games with that stat. They really, after the first drive, took away the running game. And they made Illinois one-dimensional, essentially. Penn State and Iowa have something very similar defensively that's been a big plus. And this is in part because of their offenses, too. Between the two teams, in 6 games played to this point, 3 apiece, neither defense has had to go on the field with less than 50 yards behind it. In other words, the offense starting in plus territory. Nobody has started in plus territory against Iowa so far. Nobody has started in plus territory against Penn State so far. And that is a big plus for any defense to operate. Getting Daquan Hardy, Keziah Izzard, and Amin Vanover back, very important. You notice Izzard had 2 sacks in the game. Hardy had an interception. And, of course, Vanover is a veteran that is a very good player. I was asked today on SiriusXM about people are saying that this can be James Franklin's best team And they said, after 3 games, do you still think that? And I said, well, part of that is you came into the idea that this team had a lot of depth. They said through 3 games, they have a lot of depth. And the key to depth is not just running out your top 11 on defense and your top 11 on offense. Colorado can do that. And that's going to be Colorado's problem moving forward when especially on defense.
Yep.
Their first 11 on defense is very, very good. But when they have to start subbing, that's when teams make hay. And now they don't have Hunter in the lineup. We'll get to that in a minute. But Penn State can sub, and Ellies and Vandenberg, and you've got Durant, and you've got Beeman, and you've got Izzard. Okay, feel good. There's not a drop-off there. You go in the secondary. Miller and Hardy are the backups, allegedly. They each had interceptions in the game, as did Johnny Dixon. They go 6 DBs out there. Those are 6 starting type of players out there. That's why when I put together a depth chart and I talk about starters, I don't worry so much about starters. To me, anybody who's going to play significant minutes in the rotation is a starter, because these are not guys coming in and mopping up in the fourth quarter. These are guys that are playing in the game at the end of the first quarter and the second quarter when the game is on the line. That's why it's significant. Offensively, they didn't find the rhythm that they wanted to find. They had to fight to do it. There were moments they had really good rhythm, and there were moments where they had to fight for it. The average third down play was 3rd down and 7.4 to go. Okay? For a team that gets about 50 to 51% of its offense on first down, which then sets up either another first down right away, or it sets up a second down in less than 4, because Penn State's averaging better than 6 yards of first down play. Right? When you're now getting 3rd down 7.4, part of that was the penalties. A holding penalty here, another holding penalty there, the personal foul penalty with 6:02 to go in the first half. That was a huge penalty in the game. It meant points for Illinois in the game. And Penn State was going to keep the drive alive. That's the whole thing. They're moving chains. The drops. There were a couple of drops. I'd say with 3 drops in the game, 2 specific
Two
ones.
big ones, yeah.
2 specific ones. And each one was a first down.
That was,
Each one was a first down on a pitch and catch. Right? Got to clean that up. Right? Correctable mistake? Absolutely. They stacked the box. Okay? They dared them to throw some of those quick pitch and catch shots. And Penn State hit, obviously, enough of them in the game. But they stacked the box, putting 7 guys in there at times, sometimes 8. And you can do that with that 3-4-5-2 look. You're starting out with 7 to begin with, and they'll creep up somebody and make it 8. Newton and Randolph came in as being 2 guys highly thought of. The NFL draft scouts had Newton as a second-round pick. That's why it was surprising he came back. They usually give you a first-round grade, a second-round grade, or go back to school. A lot of players seem to ignore the go back to school part, but that's...
They listen to the agents.
Yeah. But Newton had a second-round grade, and you could see why. He's a good player.
Yeah, good player.
Right? And you always have to understand when something isn't quite going right for Penn State, the other guy has something to do with that. It's not just, Penn State's not any good. Well, no, the other guy's pretty good. And Newton's one of those guys who's a really good player, and Randolph's very good too. But they stacked the box, and look, Brett Bielema, you have to make your bets along the way. And I use that as a figurative term. Okay? 49ers-Rams game aside. I use that as a figurative term. Right? And so, look, we want to do everything we can to stack the box and do what we can to take your running game away. Okay. That was the football bet that he made on his defense. Finally, Allen was able to gain over 50 yards. Nicholas Singleton was able to burst through. But notice what Singleton did. I don't think people realize. You know how many yards Singleton had in the game, all-purpose?
I do not.
Did you watch the game?
I watched the game. I even looked at the stats, and I still can't remember it.
Do you pay attention to what's going on?
I do.
Okay, he wears number 10.
He does.
He does. I'm kidding you. I bring it up because this is something a lot of people don't realize.
Yep.
Singleton had 140 yards all-purpose in the game.
All-purpose, yep.
And you look at it, you're saying because you averaged in the 2s per attempt rushing. But he had 3 catches for a career-high 49 yards. And, of course, he had the big kickoff return at the end of the half that then set up that final drive for a field goal in the final 42 seconds. Right? And we had Nick on in the post-game show with us, and Jack and I were asking him questions about that element of the game. And I asked him what he did in the summer because it would make, as he had pointed out, look, it'll make me a better all-around back. I said, well, what then? I said, then how did you go about doing that? And he said he spent obviously time with the running backs, but then he spent a lot of time with the wide receivers about running routes, getting on the jugs machine with them, trying to catch as many balls as possible. Because you notice how Nick catches the ball. Nick is not a body catcher. Right? When you're not securing yourself, you body catch. Notice he's got the hands out now. Right? That shows you how much confidence he has in how he
didn't listen to Michael Irvin
about
catch it with the hands.
Right.
Yes,
catch it with
absolutely.
The hands. He's got the hand, but that's confidence.
Yes.
When you're out there catching it with the hands. Okay. Body catch is a more insecure kind of catch.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. And I don't mean, in other words, you're insecure in your ability to catch the ball. You body catch
completely.
Right? When you put the hands out, you are confident. You notice all Nick's plays, but out there, hands out. And that addition, which puts him in the open field or potentially puts him one-on-one with a linebacker, wow. That's big. And, kickoff return, Singleton. Saunders did a terrific job on punt returns. Falcons hit 3 field goals. Wosu, his kickoffs, he has been an ace on kickoffs so far.
Completely.
The shorter ones have been deliberate.
And that's, I think, part of the issue that I think sometimes, and like fans are incredibly knowledgeable, but I think when they say, you look at after the first game, Penn State's got a lot of problems on special teams. Not entirely. You think about the phases of kickoff, coverage, all of those things add in, and now obviously special teams have been worked out on the other ends too, but all of that is going to be huge when it comes to field position.
Well, exactly. But again, I can understand why the fans felt the way they did after the West Virginia game. So you see one game.
Because you see,
okay,
sure.
A couple missed field goals, one punt went out of bounds. There's certain things that come up. Then you point out, for example, the Saunders punt play, which was a fair catch, where he was on the 31. Straw punted it short, and he ran up in traffic and made a fair catch at the 44.
Saved you yards.
That set up a 56-yard drive. Instead of letting the ball hit the ground where it potentially could have hit a Penn State player or could have rolled 20 yards.
5-yard line, yep.
Okay. Those are subtle things along the way. And it's our job here to discuss the overall concern and then bring up the subtleties as well. And you see the job that Saunders has done in punt returns. By the way, I thought Caden played well wide receiver.
Agreed.
Had 2 catches in the game, including a first down catch. But you go on the road, you win by 3 possessions, and then guess what? You've got Iowa this week. Iowa is a team that plays the same way Iowa always plays. And I mean that as a compliment. Iowa doesn't want to turn the ball over. Now, their giveaway takeaways even, by the way. They've had 3 takeaways, and they've had 3 turnovers themselves. So they're even. But there have been no drives that have started by the opposition in plus territory. So they want to play the field position game. They have a very good punter in Taylor. Stevens is a good place kicker. So they can get to a certain point, feel confident about getting some points. They don't have to take it all the way down. They're only giving up 246, 247 yards a game defensively. They have not faced a single juggernaut offensively. They've faced none. I mean, Utah State has not done much offensively in any game.
No.
Central Michigan has not done much offensively in any game. They don't throw the ball well.
Defensively played well first half Saturday, but offensively they've done nothing.
Iowa State, which would be their best win to this point, just lost at Ohio University 10-7. Mm-hmm. So offensively, they're not very good. So I think Iowa is a very good defensive team. It's just we're going to find out how good.
Yeah.
Joe Evans is really good. Yahya Black is really good. Okay. Jay Higgins, the middle linebacker, very good player. It's interesting. He has 34 tackles. You want to know how many he has for loss to this point? None.
Not many. Yeah.
0.
I've not watched. I've watched 1.5 Iowa games, but I never saw one.
Yeah, but those defensive linemen almost like block for him. Higgins is a very good linebacker. Coleman. Sebastian Castro, 29. Good, like half safety, half linebacker guy. Schulte's a very good safety. Like him a lot. And then offensively, big offensive line, road graders. There will be times that they line up with 8 guys across the front. Right? They'll line up with 8. Right? They'll put the 3 tight ends in there. They'll go with the offensive line. They'll do it. McNamara, the key for him is he hasn't thrown for a lot. What did he throw for? Maybe 120 on Saturday?
Yeah, the running game. Yeah. Helping him out Saturday for sure.
Yeah, well, he didn't have a good day throwing the ball either.
No.
And he loves to use his tight end, but Lachey is probably out of the game.
Is going to be,
Lachey is the team's leading receiver with 10 catches so far. So that will put more on Eric All, who came over with McNamara from Michigan. All's a very good tight end. The running backs are good. Williams had 145 yards, a career high against Western Michigan. Patterson had a really good game against Iowa State. Caleb Johnson got hurt. I think he got hurt in the Iowa State game. He did not play Saturday. So we'll see. It's an ankle injury. But they have a stable of running backs. They will occasionally line up with a fullback. Not always, but occasionally they'll do it, especially in short yardage. Wide receivers, they still have Reganey. And Jack and I have always liked Reganey. Reganey is a good player. Seth Anderson they've added in. They used him on a reverse on Saturday for 30 yards. They'll run the occasional reverse. But look, they play their game. And the entire premise of this game, to me, is going to be which team gets to the lead. Because it's all predicated on how Iowa plays. If Iowa gets to the lead, they get to play their game. They get to work the clock. They get to run the football. All right, mix in some short pass plays here and there off play action. But if Penn State gets to the lead, and Iowa has to play from behind, and they can get, you've got to get it. When I don't mean just lead by 7, like be up by a couple scores.
By a couple scores, yep.
Right, and now they have to break pattern, and they have to play from behind on the road with all of you screaming. Then, that's going to be critical. It's not like McNamara's never been in there before. He has.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, he has. He was here 2 years ago.
Yep.
Was the starting quarterback for Michigan on a day they didn't use J.J. McCarthy at all. He played the entire game against Penn State 2 years ago. And so he knows what it's like. Now, not at night. Not at night. And that'll be interesting. Now let's get to the penalty part. The penalty part. There have been a lot of penalties called in college football in the opening 3 weeks of the season. Now, let's go back. I'll start with Iowa first. You want to know what the average penalty was? This all goes with the Iowa MO. 3 penalties per game, only 17.5 yards per game in penalties. That's it. That's that Iowa. 3 penalties per game, 17.5 yards per game on penalties. That's it. We know Penn State had 7 on Saturday for 70 yards. All right, that's well established. In a game where Florida State beat Boston College by 2 points, 31-29, Boston College committed 18 penalties in the game and lost by 2. In a game where Colorado beat Colorado State in double overtime, Colorado State committed 17 penalties and lost in double overtime. In other words, these are not, my point is, these are not teams that committed 18 penalties and 17 and got blown out. No,
absolutely.
They committed 18 penalties and lost by 2. Gee, if you commit even 10 penalties, you win.
Yeah.
You're Colorado State. You commit 10 penalties, and guess what? Shedeur Sanders doesn't lead them down the field in the final minutes, to put them into overtime, because you've got a margin. You're not shooting the proverbial figurative phrase of shooting yourself in the foot. And that's what it does. It kills possessions. It keeps their drives alive. There's all sorts of things. So you've got to be able to play a clean game. Keep your turnovers to a minimum. Keep your penalties to a minimum. And so many times teams lose games. Boston College against Florida State lost the game. Yeah, Florida State wins it, but BC lost that game. You can't commit 18 penalties and say, well, Florida State played great, they won. No, not really. Florida State did not play well. Boston College actually outplayed them, but committed 18 penalties and had to keep overcoming themselves. When you have to overcome yourself, you're used to that in life.
Several times.
Right? When you have to overcome yourself all the time, suddenly, let's take a touchdown drive. Yeah, and I didn't see the BC game, so I'm not going to pretend. Right. Say it ends up being a 70-yard drive. Well, if you commit 3 penalties on the drive, you actually had to go maybe 105 yards on the drive to get there.
Yeah.
Really? I mean, that's like being a baseball pitcher, right? And they commit a couple of errors behind you. You got to get 5 outs.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's what it is. That's what penalties are. Colorado State, sure, they were aggressive and so forth. And the guy that hit Hunter in the first quarter should have been thrown out of the game.
I have no idea. It's not targeting. No idea.
I mean, he took 3 steps and he's out of bounds.
Yeah.
Hunter's out of bounds to begin with.
Yeah.
That was dirty.
That was terrible.
That was dirty.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay? He should have been thrown out. Now that,
no doubt.
And you know how on the targeting thing, I'll sit there and go, I don't know what targeting is. Well, I can tell you on that one, I know what it is.
Yeah, it sure was. Yeah.
It was dirty.
I can tell you I don't know what targeting is because I don't know how you don't call that one. That's I was thinking that Saturday night watching that, and I think LeBron James said the same thing, and he's right. And that spot, I don't know how he stays in that game.
I don't care. I don't care if it's the first play of the game or if it's in overtime.
Yeah.
You throw him out.
Yeah.
Because
rules are rules. Yeah, that doesn't matter.
There's a line.
Yeah.
He didn't skirt the line.
No.
He went
crossed
way
it
over the line. He was way over the line in terms of the hit on him. And Hunter's going to be out.
Couple weeks.
I mean, at least a couple weeks. With 2 of their biggest games coming up with Oregon
2 in a row, USC.
and USC. Yeah. And they're not going to have one of the better players in the country. And Hunter is one of the better players in the country.
Versatile 2 ways. Yep.
Right? And on a team that doesn't have a lot of depth defensively, that is Colorado's issue. I mean, you notice they gave up a lot of points to Colorado State. They gave up a lot of points to TCU. Right? So they've given up points.
Yeah.
I mean, Colorado scores a bucket load of points.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the issue.
Nope.
They give up a lot of points.
Yep.
Nebraska tells you that there's a little bit of a struggle offensively. But
no doubt.
But Bo Nix in Oregon, they are not Nebraska. No. Caleb Williams in USC, they are not Nebraska.
No.
And that's been the issue. So they lose him. But that player, that wasn't skirting the line.
No, it's crossing it in a big way.
That was grabbing the line and throwing it out of the way. And he should have been thrown out. I apologize for not knowing his name. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know the Colorado State roster. But, to see that happen, that's wrong. I mean, that's wrong. And the fact that they allowed him to stay in the game, that was poor officiating. And I don't know if it was a Mountain West crew or a Pac-12 crew. I have no idea. And for all I know, there are some MAC officials that work the Big Ten. There might be some Mountain West officials that work the Pac-12 or vice versa. So I don't know what kind of crew it was, but it was wrong. But penalties, turnovers, these are the self-inflicted.
The self-inflicted.
wounds.
Yeah, that's exactly, and that adds to it with the two there, and then it's that's I think what made that first game for Penn State so impressive against West Virginia. You commit one penalty, and it's and the first game
it was a false start on special teams.
Yeah, so to me, when you're that clean with timing and everything first day, that's spectacular. I think that speaks a lot of volumes. And yeah, Saturday they got to clean that up. There's no doubt. But you're right. In college football as a whole, it really has become magnified. I think it's a combination of two things. I think it's some players not necessarily fully adjusting to practices just yet. I think in terms of college football, I think that's part of it. You have to do it.
Yeah.
But and the other part of it, I think, also is the officials just calling it a lot closer now. They're absolutely not letting these guys play in some ways, and then you miss a call like that in the Colorado State game. I don't understand. I don't know what targeting is at this point. If that's not, I really don't. I think that's a spot where it's just like I have no idea how that is not targeting in that situation.
That was wrong.
Yeah, it was very wrong. And it was people get on Deion Sanders for his pre-games, his post-games. You know what?
Those are words.
Those are words, not action. Come on.
I don't.
It drives me nuts. And he is a motivator. It's clear as day. He's gotten the best out of his players. That's.
You know what? He admits he coaches them hard.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of the job.
Part of the game. It's part of the game.
Part of the job is to make people better.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to judge a player.
Absolutely.
Where you got to know which ones that you need to give a pat on the back, right? Because that's what motivates them.
Yeah.
And sometimes some of them deserve, figuratively, verbally, a swift kick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because they need that verbal kick. And that's part of it. I also agree. I'll tell you where I also agree with him. He talks about his ability to recruit players. Mm-hmm. And this is something James Franklin and his staff always do. So this is not so I'm going to take something that Deion, since he's talked about it lately. He says, I know what I'm looking for. Right.
Yeah.
So does James.
Yeah.
I mean, James Franklin.
Yep.
James Franklin knows what he's looking for. Now, are you going to be perfect on it?
Heck no.
Right?
No way.
There's still that vague, okay, they're doing this on high school, does it translate to this level? Nicholas Singleton translated right away. Katron Allen translated right away. Drew Allers translated right away. Then there's some other guys, and I talk about, as you know, I talk about all the time being on your own clock. Sometimes it takes a couple of years, and then finally all the tumblers fall into place, right? As you're unlocking the safe of ability. Ding, ding, ding. Up, all the tumblers fell in, safe is open, and they let her fly, and now you've got, wow, the last couple of years of a player, boy, like where was that the first 2 years? Sometimes it just takes time.
Sure.
Right? Trying to get used to the speed. Maybe you needed something more in the weight room. Maybe there's a long list of things. Or, I've had to fight through the classroom, and I'm not, and now I'm doing great in the classroom. Now, allows me to do great in football because you're trying to think about 5,000 things. There's a lot of stuff that goes into this. My nutrition was lousy before I got here. Now I've got here, I'm on the right kind of diet. There's a long laundry list as to why. And the great coaches have the ability not just to recruit great talent, but winning teams are made up of great talent and also are made up of a lot of very good football players that may not be NFL guys or they're borderline guys, but on the college level, they're very good and they help you win.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And James, of course, sees this stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Recruiting services do a great job, so please, I'm not in any way, shape, or form.
No, it's not an exact science.
Right, but you look at the job Sean Fitz does, you do the job that Ryan Snyder does. 247, remind me.
Mark Brennan?
Well, no, Mark Brennan, but Tyler Donahue?
Tyler was there, yep.
Yeah, I think Tyler does more of the recruiting side than Mark does. I think
at this point, yeah.
Yeah. And Tyler Donahue, they do great jobs. They do great.
Sure.
So please, I want to make they do great jobs. They stay in contact and so forth, but they don't sit there like Sean, Tyler, Ryan, for example, do not sit there and they don't rank the top 50 tight ends. But they do a great job of knowing who Penn State's recruiting, knowing who other people are recruiting, and they stay in contact with individuals. That gives everybody some great stories as to how close they are or how a visit went or whatever, okay? And when you get the letter of intent day, they have done a great job of informing everybody about everybody. But they're not three guys that sit there and go, well, here are the top 50 tight ends. Excuse me, over here in the back. What's the difference between 14 and 15?
Yeah.
Asking for a friend, right? They don't do that.
No.
Somebody else does that.
Somebody else does that. Exactly.
Well, guess what? James and his staff, they identify, they do their own deal. They know what they're looking for, why they're looking at it, and so forth. Deion's done the same thing out at Colorado. He knows what he's looking for, and this is where having two sons, Shador and Shiloh, that he coached through the ranks. Yeah. 7th, 8th grade. Those 8th grade All-Star games. Remember how Deion and LeVar brought that 8th grade game to here one year?
Mm-hmm.
They brought it here to State College.
Yeah.
So, yes, Deion Sanders has been in State College. That allowed him, because of his two sons, to really get a read on talent at a young age and develop relationships with some of these players at a young age because of his sons. So he knew what he was looking for and why he was looking for it. So these are subtle things. For some reason, nobody asked him about that. Have you heard him talk one time about those All-Star games? Because nobody asked him. It's all about the bravado. It's all about this pregame speech. It's all about, come on. It's like, they hit my music, things like that. It's great. I have no problem with that. You can have fun with it.
No doubt.
Yeah, you work hard all week. You can have fun.
You can have fun. You're gonna have the players loose too.
I have no problem. Yeah. I have no problem with words. No. I have no problem with bravado or anything like that. Okay, none. Okay, that 98-year-old Colorado fan And I watched James do this. James reached out and continues to reach out. You watch James Franklin. James Franklin, if somebody stops him, stops and spends time with them. Always. Doesn't keep going. Like, he's tempted with you to keep going, but
I give him
that makes him average.
Appreciate his bravery.
Right, that makes him average, though. I gotta blow that guy off. Okay, but he takes time with people.
Yeah, sure does.
Right? Okay, you should see a quarterback club. The time he's taken with different people there. All right, when he does have other stuff to do, but he thinks people are important. Okay? One of them had a 100th birthday a couple of years ago. Yeah, he called her up, FaceTimed with her. Not to do that, but he did because it was important. Okay? Well, that 98-year-old Colorado fan, he went to her house. Dion did. To her house. Didn't they have to do that? No, but she's an important part of Colorado history. He understood that. Or at least was made aware of it and said, it's important. And then when they won the first home game, they gave her the game ball. Okay, that doesn't match up with the bravado and
It's not a good story.
Right.
Yeah.
But they gave her the game ball.
Absolutely.
Because she's a lifelong Colorado fan. And guess what?
Yeah.
There's a new era. Okay? They gave her the ball. And you got a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds in the locker room all jumping up and down and yelling for her. It's like Sister Jean with Loyola.
With Loyola Chicago, yeah.
Okay? James does that all the time with people. All the time. You have to make time for people.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to run your football team. He runs his football team like a family. But there are also moments in families where tough love is needed. Okay? Yesterday was corrections day. Okay? Was everything in a film session Shangri-La? No. Okay? Let's go out to the practice field. Time to get to work. Boom. Get out there, get to work. Okay? Corrections. All right. Transition. Now it's Iowa. Okay? You do that. And when you need to love them up, you love them up. When you need to discipline with tough love, you discipline with tough love. But it's still a family. And that brings us to Saturday night. Saturday night, we talk about the family aspect of it. When you have Labor Day weekend, which is a weekend where a lot of people, they'll go out camping, they'll go to the beach, it's the last weekend of summer, it's usually pretty warm, and you have 110,747 show up. Wow.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay. Then you bring Delaware in. And with all due respect to Delaware, it'd be like, oh, yeah, it's Delaware. Yeah. Anybody want my tickets? 108,000 plus.
108,000 plus. Mm-hmm.
Really? What, do you think they're going to be empty seats on Saturday night? No. And that's, when you talk about the family aspect, James takes a lot of time with people and groups. When he first, quarterback club's a great example. When he first heard about quarterback club, he's like, it's a Wednesday, I got to get ready. And now he'll be the first to tell you, he'll say it's one of the better decisions he's made to embrace it. Because it allowed everybody to get that personal interaction with him, to see his intelligence, his personality, everything combined as to what makes him a special coach. And when you're cultivating, you have to win.
Right.
You have to win. Penn State's winning. And that's always the greatest marketing tool on the face of the earth. It's the teams that are winning, that are not drawing people. At that point, you do have a marketing problem. Okay?
No doubt about it.
But they're winning, but he's But he's embraced what makes the fan base here tick and work. And they, in turn, have embraced him to really help him in the stands about making it tick and work. Okay. And you don't think Iowa all week is going to be spending time blaring stuff out in their practice field? Blaring it. And guess what? They're going to get in here, and guess what they're going to find out? Like everybody else. We played it as loud as we could. We couldn't quite replicate it. It's hard to replicate 110,000 people. And it's amazing how most traditions in college football are long-standing. Right? Oh, you've got the little brown jug. It's going to be Michigan and Minnesota, right? Long-standing tradition. The Egg Bowl, Mississippi State. We'll go through the long list of, these are long-standing traditions, trophy games that go way back, rivalries that go way back. And then you have this. It started in 2004.
Okay.
2004. This will be the 19th whiteout of some form.
Yep. Yeah. All stadium was Notre Dame. I think that was the first one.
But if you're starting from 2004, right, with that Purdue game, right?
Yep.
And you're like, well, wait, 2004, but wouldn't it be the 20th? Remember, COVID. There's no stands. There was no whiteout game. That's why. And it's become a destination.
Yeah. Regardless of opponent, I think is what makes it even better. I think that's when you're able to create that atmosphere, and it proved it last year. You're able to when you're able to create that atmosphere, which is incredible, off the charts, second to none in my opinion in college football. And you're able, regardless of opponent, to have that atmosphere. Yeah. It speaks volumes, and I think it spoke a lot last year when you had Minnesota here. And that atmosphere was still the same. It's still your biggest game on the schedule in terms of fans. From a fan's perspective, it's special. It to me is second to none. There's nothing like it. If you've not experienced it, I am encouraging you to do so. It's a must.
As you know, we had Peter King on the show Friday.
Yep.
After the Auburn game 2 years ago, I was talking to Peter. After the Auburn game, and he says, Steve, he says, I sat there. He says, I was just glued to the TV. He says it was just coming through the TV set. He says, I know I've got all the NFL obligations. He says, and I've got to be certain places. He says, but geez, it feels like that's a bucket list kind of game I've got to go to one of these days. I said, whatever you want to go, let me know. Obviously, but. But when somebody who has covered Super Bowls, who has a Hall of Fame ballot for the NFL, and has had the great career that Peter's had, and he looks at that on TV and says, that's a place I have to be someday. Again, he's experienced everything in football. And Andy Reid wins the Super Bowl. Who's sitting alone with Andy Reid in his office after the game, going through like one of the key plays of the game, whether it's Peter King? He's experienced everything. Yet he tells me, he said, man, it feels like it's a bucket list kind of game to go to. And that's how people look at it. That's why networks scramble to get a game like this. And when they did the first all-stadium whiteout with Notre Dame, Guido D'Elia had people going through campus all week with signs.
I remember this.
Wear white, wear white, wear white.
Giving you an personal invitation card. Yep. Which was,
a personal invitation card to wear white.
Yep. Welcome to the white. Yep. Your invitation to the whiteout, wear white. Yep.
And, of course, I've been interviewed about this, about whiteouts, how many times in my career. And I said, look, you have to understand, the first time they didn't know. I said, it's one thing to convince 60,000 people to wear white. I said, but there's still 47,000 other seats.
In the seats?
There's still 47,000 other seats.
Yeah.
I said, okay, we convinced 80,000 to wear white. Well, there's still 27,000 of the seats. To convince 107,000 people to all wear the same attire, 107,000. What does that tell you about the fan base and wanting to be one with the football team? Again, we did great. We got 60,000 people. There's still 47,000 that decided to do whatever they wanted.
Yep.
That's why they were nervous the first time. And then you walk in the stadium like, Jack Hammond, Jack's done everything in his career. And the two of us are looking at each other like, holy cow. Look at this. And then each year, of course, whenever I go out to speak, if they haven't announced it yet.
Oh, yeah. I get asked about it.
That's the first question I get
I'm
asked.
already getting asked about next year's.
No, I think I already.
Oh, I have a very, very good idea too, but I'm not telling them.
I think there's a little more to it than a lot of people realize.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. I may tell the story next year. Okay. Yep. But there's a little something to it that people don't realize about it.
Yep.
Which is fine.
Yep.
And I'll get asked. The Auburn game's got to be it. And of course they haven't announced. I can't sit there and go, it's going to be the Auburn game.
No.
Right? It's going to be the Iowa game. Like, okay. Again, I can't. Again, it's not my job to tell you.
No.
Because you're told something in confidence. You always feel bad when it comes up and you know. And you're like, you say, well, they haven't announced it yet, so I can't really talk about what they want to do with it yet. Stupid answer, but
sometimes we have to give stupid answers, though.
My problem is I feel like I lead the league in stupid answers.
You're still behind me by exponentially.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's here all week. Whiteout week.
Oh, I will not be wearing a red shirt Friday. Absolutely not.
Disgusting. They clinched the playoff spot, right?
They should be in the wild. Yeah, they should be in a wild card. It's a matter of which wild card spot.
But they've clinched it, right? Have they clinched it, or they still have to? Because the Braves clinched the division.
Braves clinched the division. I think the Phillies still have to. No, I don't think they fully have clinched it yet because they have the Diamondbacks and Reds down in that third spot still going. So I don't think they have officially clinched. I think the magic number is down, but I don't think they have clinched it.
Let's see here. Any chance you can be on in Omaha? Oh, boy.
Yeah, I believe the magic number was down to 1 when they beat the Cardinals on Saturday, then they lost yesterday. So I think it is still. But they'll be there.
Yeah.
It's amazing how the records are identical. In the previous years, they won the World Series. That's not a stat I want to look at and say too loud, but.
Yeah, well. What do you think, 8:43 Central Time in Omaha is good?
I think so.
Yeah, I'll do that one.
There you go.
I'll be on in York tomorrow at 8:30 in Eastern and then 9:43 Eastern for Omaha.
Mike the mailman was one of the best with times. I'd ask him, hey, could you come on at 1:15? Why don't I make it 1:17?
Oh, jeez.
Mike was the best.
Well, that wraps up today's broadcast extravaganza. I'm getting a lot of notes that they want you to talk more. I don't know what that means. They all seem to be coming from the same number. In fact, they appear to be coming from your number.
No.
We'll talk to you tomorrow on